community. Joining me now, the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, Representative Adam Schiff of California. What is this memo?
It basically is something that Chairman Nunes had drafted to distort the facts, to mislead the House members, and to carry political water for the White House. Chris, it's really a continuation of what we saw back in March of last year. On March 20th, we had our first open hearing with James Comey, in which he revealed that there had been a counterintelligence investigation ongoing of the Trump organization or Trump campaign. That the Republicans considered to be such a disaster that it was immediately the next night that the chairman went on this midnight run to the White House, purportedly got documents somewhere he was providing to the White House showing corruption in the Obama administration of the intelligence community. Of course, we later learned that that was a fraud, that he had obtained those materials from the White House itself. Now we have a similar effort by the chairman to put out this spin memo along the same lines. And what was so astounding to me, Chris, about the FBI and DOJ letter is it reveals for the first time Chairman Nunes didn't even read the underlying materials. After making all this fuss and claiming all this conspiracy, he didn't even bother to take the time to read the materials that he was characterizing in this memo.
So wait a second. So this memo is characterizing underlying classified materials. Now, my understanding is that the people who've read the underlying materials it's summarizing is a very relatively small group of people. Is that correct?
Well, according to the Department of Justice, in their letter today, the only two members that have read the underlying materials are myself and Trey Gowdy. And bear in mind, Gowdy is the same one who brought us those endless Benghazi conspiracy theories, none of which ultimately proved to be true. So when I moved in the committee, at the time the Republicans voted to provide this flawed document to the House, I made a motion to allow the members to read the underlying materials before they voted on characterizing them in such a distorted fashion. They voted that down. I moved to let the FBI and the Department of Justice.
Wait a second. They chose to not allow to read the actual underlying materials that are issue that provide the ingredients for the memo. They actively chose to not read that stuff. That's exactly right. And to a person, the Republican members voted against allowing themselves to read the underlying materials that they were characterizing for the rest of the House. Why would you vote to not read stuff? Why would you vote to not have access to read things?
The point was they didn't care what was in the underlying documents. They wanted to make a political statement. They wanted to feed the beast on Fox News. They wanted to do what they could to derail the Mueller investigation. At the end of the day, it was more important to them to circle the wagons around the president than it was support the men and women of the FBI, support an objective pursuit of the truth in the investigation by Mueller and by our committee. It was, unfortunately, a continuation of much of what you've seen since the beginning, and that is a priority on attacking the investigation rather than determining what Russia did and what help they may have had from the Trump campaign.
How long have you and the chair, Devin Nunes, been together on this committee?
You know, 8 or 10 years. And up until last year, frankly, we had a very good working relationship. We passed a number of very consequential intelligence bills out of this committee. What really changed on March 20th, when we had that very important hearing with James Comey. And I believe that the White House probably came down on him like a ton of bricks. He was their surrogate. And someone concocted that whole White House midnight run escapade. And ever since, his agenda has not been getting to the truth on the Russia investigation, but going after the FBI, going after the intelligence community, and carrying the president's water, which is a terrible disservice to the country.
My understanding is that Richard Burr, who is the Nunes' counterpart in the Senate, had asked to see the memo and told he can't see it?
That's correct, as I understand it. And remember, the first iteration of this effort by the chairman was the whole unmasking fiasco, where they spent months and months and months trying to prove that the Obama administration was engaged in some unmasking conspiracy, but could never prove that either. And when Chairman Burr was asked about whether the Senate was going to do a like investigation, he said, no, that's just something that Nunes came up with or made up. And so I think we have a similar dynamic here.
Related question, you just voted for the 702 reauthorization of FISA. It's the part of the government program that allows surveillance of foreign nationals, but it's possible Americans can be in those interactions, right? American can be talking to a foreign national who has a FISA surveillance warrant out against them. A lot of people with concerns about abuse of that program, a lot of Democrats voted against it. Given your concerns about the Trump administration, your concerns about Donald Trump, his respect for norms and the rule of law, why would you vote to give him that kind of authority?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that we haven't seen abuse of the 702 program. No one has used it to reverse target Americans. There's no evidence of any intentional effort to abuse the program. And we have, I think, a very serious set of safeguards that have made that have protected against any potential abuse. So the steps that we were taking were designed to prevent future abuse of the program. And we imposed a warrant requirement where 702 never had one in the past. Now, some would like it to have been broader than it is, but it was a compromise and I think a responsible one. Because, you know, while I do, yes, have very serious concerns about the administration, I also have very serious concerns that we not prevent the intelligence community from getting the information they need to protect the country.
I would note that also your colleagues who are running around saying about how this program's been abused were all voted for it as well. So just so that everyone's clear about the record here.
Chris, I do want to also point out, though, that my colleagues, some of the leaders of the effort to impose a warrant requirement in all cases that have gone down to read the Nunes memoranda have found it to be as distorted as I do, and don't help the cause that they were advocating.